Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Christian, a Comprehensive History Part 65. So, last time, ladies and gentlemen, Chris, after harassing and hugging people who told him specifically no, Chris got himself kicked out of too many games, and quite frankly, Chris seemed rather dismissive about the whole affair. Like, I think Chris didn't really seemed very unnaturally unfazed by what had happened, because basically what Chris did, what Chris is very famous for, and that's just to shelve the blame, put it on his autism. And Chris apparently got to enjoy, it was either Mags Fest or BronyCon a couple of weeks later. Part of me feels as if like Chris didn't deserve that. Part of me also feels like there should have been more serious consequences for Chris's actions. And, well, we now move on to part 65. So, yeah, that if there's one takeaway from last time, ladies and gentlemen, and it's that, well, Chris is a very naughty boy. Yeah, that's that. If there's nothing really else to add apart from that. So, let's go.
What made her this way? What is the attraction? What keeps us fascinated? This is the story of Christian.
Oh boy, here we go again.
On July 29th, 2018, as Christine was on her way back home from attending the My Little Pony-themed BronyCon convention, her mother's 2002 Dodge Caravan that she was driving broke down at a Sheetz gas station in Bealton, Virginia, a couple of hours from home. She posted of her troubles on Twitter, letting her followers know that she followed troubleshooting steps, but to no avail. She also text messaged Kiwi Farms user The Captain about her predicament, informing him that she had less than $20 between all of her financial accounts, which would make calling a tow truck near impossible. The Captain was then granted access to Chris's Twitter account to write that her insurance company, State Farm, would cover $100 in tow truck costs, but she still required another $100 in personal funds, and so encouraged followers to donate to her PayPal account. After receiving enough donations, the Captain returned to Twitter to post that a tow truck was on its way to pick up Chris and the car, and that Chris's mother, Barbara, was not angry, but rather sad and worried for her safety. While waiting, Chris posted a video on Twitter showing her pacing around the car as she waits for the tow truck.
Yep, this is me, killing time, waiting for the tow truck. It'll be here in less than an hour, and what am I doing? I'm walking, around the van, around the van.
As Chris was waiting and pacing,
pacing. I'm assuming that was not the only strange sight that was going on in Bealton, Virginia that night, but goodness knows what it'd be like for people just driving down the highway and you see Chris just walking as though he was like expecting something to happen.
The Captain confirmed that the gas station received several troll phone calls accusing Chris of begging instead of being stranded. In the early hours of July 30th, the tow truck picked up Chris and her mother's car, and upon arriving home, Christine wrote that she was back home safely, and as a bonus, Barbara had cleaned up her bedroom while she was away, doing a quote-unquote good service.
You know, again, this should be the part of the video I say, at 30, you're 36 years old, Chris, why don't you clean your room out? I was cleaning my room by the time I was 8, and Chris is like, well, then again, considering the state of 14 Branch Lane Court, even back in 2018, it's like the apocalypse.
However, as revealed in a later text message sent to her teenage friends Lucas and Devil, Chris's mother threw out many of her possessions without consulting her beforehand, such as some of her favorite VHS tapes, which made Chris think that Barbara wanted to subconsciously force her to leave the house. In addition, Christine discovered her mother had thrown out her classic striped polo shirt. The iconic striped Ralph Lauren rugby shirt of mine is misplaced, and we're looking, and my mother is trying to remember where she saw it. I fear she had trashed it by mistake, but Magi-chan informs me that the shirt is still here in the house somewhere. There were a number of full trash bags outside. I just went through the 5 we brought back in after I got back home. I, like I foresaw, felt very frustrated and upset. So I showed her what I recovered.
Frustrated by what, Chris? You're walking around in a disintegrating shirt. Chris, if nobody knew who you were, they would have just said you looked homeless, Chris. And that's honestly that still image right there. That would just give me the impression that Chris was just homeless. Although, and that was the only thing in the world that apparently mattered to Chris.
Covered and told her how I felt. And, with her watching, I yelled at a body pillow, pretending it was her. I pretended I had my iconic shirt in hand, and I slapped, punched, and even humped, then tossed the pillow towards the head of my bed. Then
I guess in the world of legalities, ladies and gentlemen, that could be interpreted as Exhibit B.
With that as her punishment for that reckless good intention misdeed, I forgave her for that whole mess. But I still miss my shirt, holes and all. So, that is why I'm very interested in contacting Ralph Lauren to reproduce the shirt and make 3 of them for me. And, right now, I'm looking on eBay for the same shirt. Sigh.
He still has to include size in his...
On July 30th, as both of the Chandlers' vehicles were being repaired, Christine walked 4 miles to the post office to send out a selection of items bought by her supposed fans on eBay. She posted a series of videos on Twitter documenting the event.
I'm walking, yes indeed I'm walking, like you and me I'm walking, I'm walking, yes.
I know fine well that Chris doesn't really respond to like YouTube comments and such, but somebody really needs to tell Chris to like stop singing, or at least to tell Chris to stop squashing his nuts together. You're not gonna get a high pitched voice, Chris. It's face facts a little bit. That's what I'm saying. Also, it's literally just a video of Chris walking. I don't really know what else you can say. All I can say is that Chris walks more convincingly than doing parquet. I guess I can say that. And I just did, so there.
Indeed I'm walking, like you and me I'm walking, walking. You get to enjoy the scenery more than just driving on by. Spoiled children.
After a while, she got to the post office and made another update video.
Hey everybody, guess what? I made it to the post office about 4 p.m. It started raining when I was halfway through, but I made it. I'm wet, but I'm alive. I'm enjoying the hydration.
You know what? Can I just take this back? Forgetting Chris's speech 1 second. Chris, when was the last time Chris got any sleep? Because a lot of people point out things like a deteriorating, like the beginnings of a stroke. Chris looks like he is on the cusp of a stroke. That I never took the time to notice, but Chris looks like he has literally been through it. Has Chris ever looked in the mirror and thought, like, this does not look normal for some reason? But
I'm alive. I'm enjoying the hydration. I'm shipping a bunch of autographed photos out, and I got an important package to pick up.
Another video update followed upon returning home.
Hey everybody, I just made it home! I walked every single step, though I stopped at Taco Bell for a little edibles, a little filling, a little good stuff. But anyway, I walked the entire 2+ miles. Let's check my...
You walked 2 miles. Chris, that's not... I guess I shouldn't, 2 miles is, well, probably more than Chris would do in any other situation if he had no other access. But then again, if Chris's cars were still working, do you think he would have just taken his cars down to the post office? Because, well, I don't have the answer to that, but it's okay. I mean, good for you, Chris, for actually, I can't help but remember, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that Chris is rather desperate, even at the worst of times, but we can't forget the fact that whatever outlet does Chris have in terms of communicating by just doing this.
Fitbit, Woo! 23,000. But aside from that, I do thank y'all so much for donating to help me in this emergency situation. The money will be spent to pay for the car as well. So it's all very good. I'm not cheating anyone. Everyone should know that by now. I'm direct, I'm honest, I'm sincerely kind. I'm awesome to hang out with. Okay?
On the final day of July, Christine went to Facebook to write that she apparently found out what one of the so-called 69 special Sonichus and Rose Chews looked like. She then detailed and drew the appearance of Sturbanchu, a Sonichu character introduced to her by the Idea Guys. She also revealed her incomplete list of the 69 special Sonichus, a concept also brought to her by the Idea Guys, Joshua Wise, and Stephen Boyd. These included Chris's own original Sonichus and a large number of characters that the Idea Guys told her about, which were often in name referencing controversial figures of the time or inside jokes, including Logan Paul Chew, Cosby Chew, Fogel Chew, Replacement Rose Chew, and Slavichu. On August 1st, Chris went online.
And I also spotted Weinstein Shoe. How did they miss red shirt? What on earth is red shirt chew? I'm gonna have to look into that. And look at that Casey Rose Chew. How did Chris look into this and not see something like, I mean, Weinstein Shoe? Really, Chris? And you just bought into this?
And Slavichu. On August 1st, Chris went online to reveal that her mother had found a leather pouch containing some rocks of upwards to 26 years old, which were purported to bring their holder physical and emotional relief. She hung the pouch on a necklace and carried it in her bosom constantly. Also on that day, Chris shared a tweet from voice actress Tara Strong, which featured images of some of the characters she had played, wishing these so-called girlfriends a happy National Girlfriends Day. Chris added that she would not be repeating her mistake from last year's Girlfriend Day, which resulted in a public falling out between her and illustrator and voice actress Doopy Doover, so she simply expressed her love for her lady friends without naming them. The next day, a Twitter user posted a short video clip of them in the process of making a Sonichu plush doll. Christine came to ask the plushie maker why Sonichu's mouth protruded as much as it did. They agreed that the mouth looked a little long, but did not mean to change it, as it may look more balanced later on. Chris also felt the mouth, which threw her off, should remain as was, as she was sure she would get used to its imperfections. On August 3rd, Christine finalized the comic book that had been heavily influenced by the Idea Guys. Originally designated as issue 16, the comic was now known as Sonichu issue 13, or The Awakening of a CPU, also known as The Idea Guy Corruptions. On the artless front cover, Chris warned her readers that even though all the events in the comic were true and actually happened, the book was filled with offensive material with which she did not agree. In contrast to previous works, this issue was not scanned and shared page by page, and was not in full uploaded online upon completion, and was instead physically printed and then sent to her Patreon backers to avoid having her account terminated due to the content of the pages. The issue is also distinctly text-heavy, presented in her original handwriting, with the majority of the pages remaining uncolored. The story begins with Christine recounting her idea of how she came in contact with John Yamada, a soldier from game industry who was in reality portrayed by Joshua Wise. He tells her to go to her Sega Dreamcast game console, for it contained the key to creating a portal between dimensions. Magi-chan teleported to her and scanned the console. Upon touching it, they felt electricity surge through them, and a portal opened up into the world depicted in the game and anime series, Hyperdimension Neptunia. Chris then details the struggles and battles in Cwcville between various foes and heroes from different franchises, including Akan from the film Hardcore Henry, Monica from the game Doki Doki Literature Club, and the Sailor Scouts from the anime Sailor Moon. Later on, Cwcville gets attacked by Akan, leading a troop of Russian cloakers taken from the game series Stalker. Because of Akan, Cwcville Shopping Mall and then later Chris's own house get destroyed, but then quickly restored back to normality again. While signing a peace treaty, Akan then opens up a time vortex which sucks in Chris and Sonichu. While Chris remains trapped, Sonichu gets forcibly relocated to Africa, where he is chased by the natives. Along the way, he meets with Dr. Emmett Brown from the Back to the Future film series, who offers to give him a ride back to Cwcville. Chris goes on to explain that in Cwcville's dimension, the USA lost the Cold War to Russia, and as a consequence, are ruled by the Russian Federation.
I know this is going to sound like a really stupid thing to say, because I know fine well Chris doesn't know jack shit about history, but the whole point of the Cold War is that there wasn't actually any fighting that broke out between either the Americans or the Russians. Chris does realize that, by the way, that no actual fighting took place. How can it be called a war if there wasn't any actual fighting? I this may seem small in comparison because of absolutely every other insane instance that does happen in this story so far, but I just wanted to point that out because, again, like with many other things, Chris's ignorance is shocking and almost unlimited. Like, what is this supposed to be? Who even does that? Not even Frank Miller would even leave that in, and he's about as good a writer nowadays as he is as good as an artist. In short, not very much.
In 2016, Hillary Clinton was elected president, but after violently falling ill, she was replaced by Vladimir Putin of Russia. This resulted in riots between the Russian mafia and the Japanese organized crime collective, the Yakuza. In Cwcville, Ian Brandon Anderson was elected as sheriff, and the new mayor of Cwcville was the actor Brendan Fraser. Chris reflected that during the male Christian Chandler's term in office, he revoked women's rights in the area and had banished Cwcville's Megan Schroeder because of the way the real-world Megan had rejected Christian in 2007, stripping her of her special powers, though she was later promoted to a CPU goddess. Christine and John Yamada then traveled back in time to the year 2000 to prevent the old Christian from abolishing women's rights. Christine was very disappointed with the Christian of 2000, as he had been possessed by Satan or something. Christine discovered that Christian had become kidnapped and converted by Nazis, and had used the powers of his own Sonichu medallion to keep dictator Adolf Hitler alive. Christine killed off Christian and took away the powers of the medallion, causing Hitler to disintegrate into dust. John Yamada then traveled further back in time to prevent Christian's kidnapping, later learning that Christian had been taken to Islam to have his demonic possession exorcised by having his Sonichu medallion shoved.
Hang on a second. Then John was able to travel back in time and the kidnapping. Chris was taken to Islam. Chris was taken to Islam. Yeah, Chris must have had a stroke at some point, because I am like reading this. I wish I didn't have to read this. Well, I suppose that's why Gino's here in many ways, but I'm literally looking at this, and there is, among many other things that's going through my mind, ladies and gentlemen, there is something very, very important that I want to bring home to you guys as well. I don't even think this is as insane as it gets. I mean, this is madness. This is unfiltered madness. The story is complete madness. The fact that Chris wrote any of this when you say stuff like that is complete madness. The fact that this existed at all was complete madness. Chris has, I think I'd say definitively at this point, ladies and gentlemen, is where I can definitively say Chris has gone completely insane. Because what on earth am I looking at?
Up his anus. Christine then reveals that out of the 69 special Sonichu eggs that were emitted from the chaotic rainbow of February 1st, 2003, 2 of them resulted in her father, Bob Chandler, and herself. She declares herself as have been a real Sonichu for her whole life in the world of Cwcville and the Chosen One. Aside from herself, she tells the readers that most of the residents of her town have become satanic, atheist, or what. Chris states that Angelica Rosechew, along with the entire Christian church of the town, first converted to Islamism, then Satanism. Blake Sonichu became an extremist who worshipped Islamic militant leader Osama bin Laden. Wild Sonichu began growing marijuana, which Chris did not mind much. However, she much objected to Wild's production of methamphetamines. Bubbles Rosechew started to identify as a muscular black male, and Punchy Sonichu wound up in an insane asylum. Chris then inserted the page she drew on December 7th, 2017, after learning from Joshua Wise that Rosechew had allegedly been born as a male and had gender reassignment surgery to become a fully functional female in 2008. Christine wrote extensively of how much these news upset her, largely because she had defended her over the years upon seeing troll-created imagery of Rosechew with a penis. After some time, Chris felt she could continue to love and cherish her Rosie regardless. She then added a short summary of how when Sonichu and Rosechew first met, they kissed a lot in sewage, and when they first made love, they role-played as hockey players. Chris then moves on to discuss the war between Cwcville and the neighboring nation of Australatina, a fictional land created by noted lolcow, ADF, and introduced to Chris through Joshua Wise. The war was started when a quick defense soldier pooped on the border between the two nations and was then killed by the Austinians. Not long after the start of the war, DJ Jamsta Sonichu was sued by Punchy for sexual assault. Chris felt that he was not guilty, so she sent prayers and good vibes to the courthouse. As a result, Jamsta was found not guilty, but riots ensued across the town. A few days later, the Austinians...
I can only assume that whole thing about Jamsta, that's got to be of some reference to the Rodney King trials. In fact, to be honest, I'm surprised Chris didn't think that sounded a little familiar, because Chris would have been about 8 or 9 years. He would have been about 8 or 9 years old when the Rodney King riots started in what was it? Was it 91 or 92 when 3 out of the 4 police officers were acquitted of all charges? That's got to be I think that is got to be a reference to that somehow, because at this point, you could tell Chris anything. You could literally tell Chris to write anything that that's going to make him look foolish, and just go with it, because, well, then again, Chris doesn't actually, to be honest, Chris doesn't really need to be told that. He's proven this over time. That's why I've described earlier how he has completely lost his mind, because Chris, no normal person, not even somebody who had a slightly tenuous grasp on reality, would even think about this twice. They just wouldn't do it.
Killed the entire Quick Defense Force and took over the west half of Cwcville. John Yamada and the CPU goddesses from Hyperdimension Neptunia defended the east side. The Russian troops then left the town, and in their place came the Nazis. They ended up burning Simone Laroschu alive. Meanwhile, in Equestria, thousands of evil Chris clones had evolved into a blobious form, which were all lured into an open field and burned by napalm. Chris then returns to talk about the occupying Nazi forces in Equestria and Cwcville, highlighting that whenever one of them called her by the German male honorific, Herr, instead of the female, Frau, they would get doused with her own blood that multiplied from a single drop, and they would dissolve immediately and fully. The Nazis in Equestria are soon killed off by the My Little Pony character, Discord, the god of chaos. Chris then clarifies that the Nazis were in fact not completely melted by her blood, but survived, and as a consequence became infused with her DNA. Upon their banishment from Equestria, when they returned to Germany, they all transformed into Sonichus. They thusly disband their Reich altogether and give up their weapons under the command of the CPU goddess, Blonde. Next, in January 2018, John Yamada and Sonichu infiltrate a Nazi prison where Rosie Rosechu and Roberta had been raped and impregnated as part of a repopulation scheme. John and his crew destroy the facility, and he decapitates the warden. Sonichu zooms around attacking Nazi troops and slices them into pieces. Meanwhile, in the real world, Christine's father, Bob Chandler, appears alive and well in California. He is transported to the portal that would take him to Cwcville. While there, he meets with 80s serial killer Ted Bundy, who had become reborn as a Sonichu and was an ally of Cwcville. Minutes later, Bob Chandler and Ted Bundy travel.
Got a little bit of buffering, right? So, are you guys following this? Because I'm not entirely sure at what point. I think because this will be on the test. Remember, Nazis invaded Cwcville, so Cwcville had to become Nazis for some reason, and through some. What is this like? The logic of events is to create a Nazi regime, but to what then? Then what happens? Because I think who is behind any of this, and what do they even want? Do they just want to screw around with Chris? Do they just want to turn every Sonichu against Chris? What is their plan? Actually, let me try this again. I apologize for the disruption. Oh. Okay, so sorry, we're going through a little bit of technical difficulties at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll get this back in order very shortly. Still buffering, and also, I'm kind of surprised, actually, a little bit, the fact that... Oh, right, that the power's out. That's probably why. I'm actually kind of surprised that Chris even, like, had the initiative to even go out this far, to even do this sort of stuff, but there you are. It's just one of those... Actually, I'll tell you what, we'll take a little bit of a break here, and we will come back once the internet is up and running again, and we'll see you guys there. So... We'll just consider this a short intermission, so we'll be back shortly. Okay, so you join me about 20 minutes later. I've had a shower in the meantime, and basically the entire system seemed to have crashed somewhat, so But we have not crashed into slumber, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going to keep going.
The start of the war, DJ Jamsta Sonichu was sued by Punchy for sexual assault. Chris felt that he was not guilty, so she sent prayers and good vibes to the courthouse. As a result, Jamsta was found not guilty, but riots ensued across the town. A few days later, the Austinans killed the entire Quick Defense Force and took over the west half of Cwcville. John Yamada and the CPU goddesses from Hyperdimension Neptunia defended the east side. The Russian troops then left the town, and in their place came the Nazis. They ended up burning Simone Laroschu alive. Meanwhile, in Equestria, thousands of evil Chris clones had evolved into a blobious form, which were all lured into an open field and burned by napalm. Chris then returns to talk about the occupying Nazi forces in Equestria and Cwcville, highlighting that whenever one of them called her by the German male honorific, Herr, instead of the female, Frau, they would get doused with her own blood that multiplied from a single drop, and they would dissolve immediately and fully. The Nazis in Equestria are soon killed off by the My Little Pony character, Discord, the god of chaos. Kristen clarifies that the Nazis were in fact not completely melted by her blood, but survived, and as a consequence became infused with her DNA. Upon their banishment from Equestria, when they returned to Germany, they all transformed into Sonichus. They thusly disband their Reich altogether and give up their weapons under the command of the CPU goddess, Blonde. Next, in January 2018, John Yamada and Sonichu infiltrate a Nazi prison where Rosie Roschu and Roberta had been raped and impregnated as part of a repopulation scheme. John and his crew destroy the facility, and he decapitates the warden. Sonichu zooms around attacking Nazi troops and slices them into pieces. Meanwhile, in the real world, Christine's father, Bob Chandler, appears alive and well in California. He is transported to the portal that would take him to Cwcville. While there, he meets with 80s serial killer Ted Bundy, who had become reborn as a Sonichu and was an ally of Cwcville. Minutes later, Bob Chandler and Ted Bundy travel through the portal and emerge in Cwcville in their respective Sonichu forms. The Sonichus are very pleased to meet Bob, or as he is known now, Robert Chu, and express how much they have missed him. Chris illuminates that after they died, Ted and Bob did not go to heaven or hell, but transformed into Sonichus and traveled to the nation of Cwcville, where they help defend it. The following day, Adolf Hitler, while
1 second, just I'll be right back. Yeah, hello. Right, sorry about that. False alarm.
giving a speech to his Nazi forces that were still occupying West Cwcville, transforms into a Sonichu. The other Nazi soldiers also become Sonichus and Roschus, and even male Roschus and female Sonichus, as they had become infused with Christine's blood. The Nazis and their ideology soon dissolve. Soon after, the pregnant Rosie and Roberta gave birth to 3 male Rosies and 3 female Sonnies, respectively. The worlds of Cwcville and Equestria then returned to normality. After 30 years of psychically defending the town and scanning for homosexuals, Magichan suffers a horrible mental breakdown, which causes a tear to form in the Earth's noosphere, causing violent storms, which Chris could not repair. Magichan further highlights that a big reason for why he was so mentally strained was that he spent so long during Chris's homophobic years scanning for homosexuals when he was gay himself, revealing his marriage to his Pokemon mentor, Mewtwo, and also Sylvana Roschu. He states that once the tear was repaired, he would also marry Christine. In March 2018, Christine faces the tear in the noosphere and summons a myriad of transformative superpowers, which turn her into her super angelic evolved form, and she is able to close the 5-mile-long tear in 4 minutes, including a brief rest in the middle. Afterwards, Chris writes a 5-page-long tirade in which Chris-chan Sonichu criticizes Magi-chan for his reckless actions caused by jealousy. In the end, Chris-chan forgives him and surprises him with a kiss, promising that she will marry him. On the next page, she confesses that she is a bisexual trans woman and was proud to have Magi-chan and Krizel Rosechu as her spouses. Christine then writes that Sonichu started a needless war against the CPUs, which Chris had to quell. In Cwcville Shopping Center, Sonichu is shooting at unknown targets with a handgun when Chris-chan Sonichu appears to stop him. She admits that she neglected Sonichu's and Rosechu's needs, and that many things around Cwcville and herself had changed, and that she would have paid more care to the way Sonichu would react, considering that Sonichu was autistic as well. Chris goes on to confess that she had become bisexual and even had purchased an Xbox game console. She addresses Sonichu's concerns regarding the CPUs, saying that she was never brainwashed by them and simply listened to their information and advice. Chris-chan then reveals that she is not as sex-crazed as she once was, and had begun to embrace more of her Sonichu side, for example, sleeping in a puddle of her own pee in her bed. She then telepathically sends Sonichu a quick overview of her recent life events to better illustrate how much she had changed. After this revelation, she begs for Sonichu's forgiveness. She professes her love for him and then kisses him on the lips. Chris-chan promises that she will have sex with Sonichu, her son, later, but first urges that they undo some mistakes they had made. Sonichu expresses his appreciation for Chris, taking her share of the blame, but tells her that she made him too horny and so demands that they have sex immediately, possibly infected by the past Christian's sexual desires. Chris-chan angrily refuses, and they get into a spat. Chris envisages a future in which Sonichu restrains her by force and rapes her. So in order to stop that possibility from happening, she uses her powers to confuse him and make him drop to the concrete. She then sticks her hand inside Sonichu's rectum and forms a fist, causing him to ejaculate. Chris-chan then lifts him up into the air with her hand still firmly in his rectum and yells that he should be punished. Sonichu is physically restrained by Chris, who tells the audience that he will be punished in more graphic ways, which will not be depicted in the comics.
Now, I know it seems like it's, you know what, it's a little bit of a weird predicament I find myself in, because I did say earlier that I felt that this was definitively the point where Chris had gone completely insane. So why does this like have no? It kind of takes away from whatever sick impact this is supposed to have. I mean, it's fucked up. There's no doubt about that. But it's kind of hard. It is so beyond any level of comprehension at all that you're kind of half just sort of like not fazed by this anymore. But then again, this is also a work of fiction, so how can you be fazed, like, especially with something like this? So there's that, I suppose.
Chris goes on to explain that Paxton Fattel, an antagonist from the video game series Fear, falsely claimed to wage war on Cwcville. Chris-chan Sonichu and Sonichu travel back in time to make sure he never visited Cwcville, in turn ending up in a reality in which the Soviet Union never dissolved and ruled most of the world. They traveled further into the future to make sure that the USSR indeed did split up in 1991. They returned to the present day to a well-damaged Cwcville, and Chris announces her plans to restore it to former glory. As an aside, she adds that the national anthem of Cwcville is the song Think by Aretha Franklin. As an epilogue, Christine, while in her Chris-chan Sonichu form, writes that John Yamada was a counterpart of the idea guy, Joshua Wise, who lives in the real world of Earth 1218. Chris admits that Wise royally messed with her in addition to the worlds of Cwcville, Equestria, and the CPU goddesses themselves. Fortunately, with Magi-chan's guidance, she was able to stop Wise's destructive reign. Chris added that Wise and his accomplice, Stephen Boyd, had extorted from her $6,000 worth of gift cards and toys, which she was confident she would get back from them. However, she boasted that she got the best of Wise and Boyd because their treachery only strengthened her psychic link with the other worlds. Finally, Chris wrote that she had connected with the CPU goddess of the Commodore 64 console, CPU Blueheart, and had the goddess's consciousness transferred into her by touching the console, acquiring all her memories and knowledge. Chris thusly proclaims herself as CPU Blueheart of Comma and Cwcville, in addition to being Christine Weston Chandler Sonichu. Upon completing the comic, Chris changed her name on her Twitter profile to Christian Sonichu/Blueheart, and her description read, I am Miss Christine Weston Chandler, Sonichu, creator/chronicler of Sonichu and Roastchu, and CPU goddess of the nations of Cwcville, Comma, and the Commodore consoles. Also on August 3rd, Christine uploaded a near-hour-long YouTube video in which she custom spray paints her new shoes to have the Sonichu colors of yellow and blue.
So there they are in their faded glory. So that's the old shoes, and here we have the new shoes. Same thing, a DS Neo. Took out the shoelaces a little while ago, and we're going to get to work on coloring these going from all the white to yellow and blue. Yeah, I am going to use the duct tape. So I'm pulling out a good strip of it. Kinda. So definitely bring out the popcorn, because you're watching it as it happens. We're painting the shoes. 2 months I've been a CPU goddess. Almost 2 months.
How are you doing?
Hello! Hey everybody, guest starters, Bob Rand. There's Bob Rand. Say hello. Oh, darn it. Oh boy. Everybody's seen that mark on your face. Tell them what happened.
You know, Bob, I'm not going to see anybody that's going to say anything.
Yeah. Mama tripped on the wet grass outside. Hit her face on the ground. Jeez. But I helped pick her up and got her inside. Got her ointment, emergency treatment. She's okay. Now what was I doing? Oh, right.
How much did they cost?
The shoes?
Yeah.
Oh, they were about $50.
50?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah, they're really nice shoes.
They are. They look nice.
Yeah, they're gonna be even nicer after I finish customizing.
I bought another roll of duct tape today.
Oh yeah, I noticed you did. Yeah, when you went, when you got the screws for the mirror. Yeah, she's making a vertical mirror. It's going to be horizontal for gonna be hanging it in my place here, my room here later after she gets it done. But she's been doing very well. She's very awesome. She's quite physically able and whatnot. She can. I'm very proud of my mom.
Pardon me again. You say that, Chris, but literally I'm sitting here and I'm like not happy about that arrangement whatsoever. Chris, why don't you do any what is stopping Chris from just doing housework and just letting his mom take a break so she doesn't have an accident again? What in the world?
I'm real proud of you, too.
Thank you.
Boy, that van drives good with those new tires.
Oh, excellent.
I stopped bleeding, so I washed the dried blood off.
Well, that's good. I'm really sorry you tripped. Jeez.
It was the grass. Everything was so wet.
Oh, yeah.
My body is still in shock, so I'm not doing anything tonight.
Well, that's okay.
I'm just resting.
Yeah, except you still went ahead and cooked dinner, didn't you?
Yeah.
I deviate from the norm. I am a CPU goddess.
Yeah, can CPU Goddess Storm put a tarp on the floor or something to prevent? I know that I can't say when the last time that carpet was cleaned or anything like that, but come on, Chris, you're getting paint all over the place.
Storm. Just kidding as I say that. Not a storm. Oh, okay. Plastic gloves. Excuse me.
I have a suggestion.
What's your
Let's donate the 4 pillows to Goodwill.
No. I may have a need for those.
2 of them.
No, I may have a need for those. No, just no. No.
Okay.
No, 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 no. No, not the body pillows. Latex gloves. Why didn't I think of it sooner? Should have done this sooner. Can't think of everything simultaneously. And there's the reason why I have a little black. I have some black paint. Carefully push this thing. Smoke them. Easy. Not damn.
Those other glasses didn't work for me.
Dope. We're gonna get those adjusted for you. Aye, bae.
I need to get new glasses. Maybe September I can afford.
You hear that, people? Send me a couple of $100 and I can get my mother a new pair of glasses.
Well, since you demanded so nicely, Chris, no. Why don't you go get a job, Chris, and, you know, actually take care of your mother and get her some freaking glasses, you freaking piece of shit. Like, I often find it, like, again, I shouldn't, but I find it fascinating, the fact that Chris is this selfish and this idiot. He is that selfish that he just doesn't bother to try, because taking care of his mom is not nearly as important enough as just hoarding all of this I mean, I know that Chris gets a lot of these bad habits from his parents and his own perceived ego even at the worst of times, but Chris, you do realize you're on camera as well, that something that Chris I don't really think seems to catch on is that even if we were to give Chris the benefit of the doubt, evidence to the contrary, and especially with what we know is coming on, is that Chris just it's awful. It's terrible to say the least.
Did you put the Civil War wall chart on eBay?
No. And I have too many other things to worry about other than frickin' eBay. And don't I have so many responsibilities. And,
Again, fuck off, Chris. You can't even spell responsibilities.
You know, my life, folks. Stay tuned for further details on the life of a CPU in training. Have fun. I got a blue ring on my finger.
Got it on the carpet.
Don't worry about the carpet.
I've enjoyed my time with you. I think I'll go lay on my back. Let my back rest.
Okay.
Because it hurts.
I hear you. I love you, dear.
Love you, baby. See you later.
See you later.
Oh, I washed all your towels and washcloths.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna lay your washcloths here.
Oh no! Put them there, please. Put them on the clothing stack. And leave those. Those are just receipts from today, among which, and that's the shoe receipt you're looking at. Would you please put it back and get out of my way? You're in my way right now.
Don't forget to shred them.
I'll shred them later. Thank you.
Okay.
Go on. Thank you. I love you.
Love you.
I don't want to get interrupted. Don't interrupt. Okay, so essentially the point is, we got both shoes, mostly both shoes painted. Gonna wait for the paint to dry. It's gonna take about half an hour or so. And I'm pretty much gonna end this video right now. Alright, so anyway, that's it. I'm Christine Chandler. You have been watching this channel. You have been watching me color shoes. Thank you. Have a good day. Support this CPU. Blue Heart, Cwcville. Yes.
On August 5th, Christine responded to
I don't want to support or literally have anything to do with this after that, because that was just uncomfortable for us all, and I do apologize for those who did feel uncomfortable and felt that. But when did that happen?
a YouTube video from attorney and YouTuber Rekieta Law, which featured Kiwi Farms administrator and guard dog Null as a guest, who discussed the extortion committed by the Idea Guys. Chris objected to Null's dismissive comments against her pastoral counselor, Rocky Shoemaker, and her friend, Anna McLaren, who said that they did nothing to help Christine. Chris wrote on Twitter that the two were simply unable to help with the police and did not in fact refuse to assist authorities. Chris requested an apology from Null on the Kiwi farms. Null instead went to the farms to elaborate that Anna had been veritably harassing Chris for 2 days, pleading with her to cease all contact with the guard dogs, namely Null, Marvin, and the captain, the Kiwi Farms members close to her who greatly helped her in ceasing the idea guy's influence over her. The captain told forum users that Christine was messaging him to vent because Anna was giving her too much stress. Despite Anna's actions, Chris informed the captain that she wanted the guard dogs to remain in her life. On August 9th, Chris went to Twitter to ask if she always had freckles on her face, since she just noticed them herself. On August 13th, Christine was photographed waiting for her meeting with her therapist at the Region 10 Community Services Board, wearing her Sailor Moon tiara and a head and hairband, as her Nightstar plush doll accompanied her. Later on, she watched a video posted by artist Project SNT, which featured her radical redesigns of Sonichu and Rosechu. Chris wrote on Twitter that SNT happened to draw a Sonichu and Rosechu from a different dimension than that of which everyone knew, and described their respective origin stories. She defended the way she originally drew Rosechu because it was what she allegedly saw when she witnessed her for the first time, declaring that she had a strong psychic link with that dimension for her entire life. Chris then tagged Shannon McGuire, the writer who first told her about the existence of multiple Earths in the multiverse seen in the Marvel comic books. Christine wrote that McGuire surely could relate to Chris's interdimensional psychic link, to which McGuire replied, "No, I really can't. Please don't drag me into this. When I was talking about a multiverse, I was talking about the imaginary multiverse as exists in Marvel Comics canon, not a real place you can really access." Chris apologized for her previous assumptions, but still let her know that writers, such as herself, had the power to project themselves into other dimensions.
Shut up, Chris.
Also on that day, she shared a diagram showcasing how she supposedly transformed between her various forms, namely Christian Sonichu, her pony form, CPU Blueheart, and Blueheart's Sonichu form. Later again, a Twitter user shared with her a fan illustration of Scarlet Blueheart in a voluptuous form, to which Chris responded by stating neither Scarlet nor herself were fat. Finally, on the 13th, she posted a video decrying the announced My Little Pony Generation 5 TV series, which would replace the current Generation 4 iteration and would drastically deviate in art style.
Hey there, everybody. This is Christine Chandler coming to you live from home once again. People of Earth 1218, heed my warning. Spoiler alert, I had seen the future and I had to prevent it. Princess Twilight Sparkle was about to upgrade Applejack to Alicorn status, but it backfires. Twilight's wings get put onto Pinkie Pie, and Twilight's horn gets onto Fluttershy, and it's just no good, and that's how we end up with that frickin' G5. We must prevent this. This is not gonna work out, and I have foreseen this.
I have a feeling this is also going to be a bit of a recurring theme throughout the next couple of videos, is the fact that I love the fact that Chris is parading around as though actually Chris can actually stop something that's already in motion. It's actually kind of funny. But, well, apart from when it isn't.
This is very, very bad. So I had just conferred with Twilight and Princess Celestia as well, and Celestia and I are in agreement, as she had seen the future as well. We must prevent this G5 mistake from ever happening. And yes, G4 will continue. But anyway, heed my word, Hasbro, and everybody on the MLP show. Generation 5 must never happen. And G4 must have at least 5 more seasons. Heed this. Heed our warning. This is an official command from your CPU Blueheart, in agreement with Princess Celestia of Equestria, all of which in our sister dimension. Thank you.
She reiterated her anger at the announcement of a new series without the wanted resolution in the G4 storyline in a Twitter thread that same day, vaguely threatening Hasbro, the owners of the MLP franchise. Christine continued replying to other Twitter users the next day, proclaiming G5 would bring downfall upon Equestria and everyone residing both in their sister dimension and the real world as well. On August 15th, Chris uploaded a brief video of herself yelling out of frustration, possibly as a result of the My Little Pony debacle. Over the next few days, she received several negative ratings from her buyers on eBay, complaining that the items they had purchased from her never arrived. On August 17th, Chris listed a newly made Roastery cardboard standee for $150. By this date, her overall positive rating stood at 90.1%. This was followed by a video advertisement of her eBay products that was posted on her Facebook page.
90.1. That's like even have anything less than 95 is bad. But 91, really? Not even, it's not even 91. It's like 90.
She further begged for people to buy her items on Twitter, as the Chandlers were nearly broke and their cats and dogs needed food. The captain revealed on the QB forums that she had asked him to advertise her eBay page to others, but he refused upon learning that Chris had spent around $2,000 on My Little Pony merchandise at BronyCon.
After that, I think honestly my opinion would be very, very simple. I know this is like by the time I'll come to cover Chris's Quick Light store as well as his Etsy sales, just what else can I say apart from don't and never give money to Chris. That's just about all I can say, because you guys know what will happen, and well, $2,000 and he's still whinging about, people trying to buy glasses for his mother. Really? Are you serious?
Also on the 17th, she posted another short video clip on Twitter in which she recites a so-called earworm.
Still want to give money to Chris now then? Don't do it.
3 days later, Chris uploaded a YouTube video starring her mother Barbara, advertising some of Chris's eBay products, including a signed photo of Barbara herself.
My name is Barbara Chandler. I am autographing pictures to be sold on eBay. Thank you for buying. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Wait. We tell them to buy the other things as well, aside from that.
It will help us to buy food for the rest of the month. Thank you.
And buy everything else from Christine Chandler on eBay. Thank you. Definitely the high-ticketed items as well. Jeez. Oh well. Did okay.
Not long after posting the video, Chris halved the prices of her own autographed photos, resulting in them selling out within an hour. Christine had begun to embrace her infamy once more by increasing her merchandise output. However, like with the ideas she sought from her circle of friends and acquaintances, she focused on instant gratification with no foresight of her future outlook, dooming herself to an endless cycle of foregoing needs in favor of wants, ignoring mistakes of her past that she was bound to relive in the future.
Okay, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the end of part 65, and I'm gonna just state for the moment right now, ladies and gentlemen, that it's probably not the worst episode yet, but I will say that this is honestly one of the most infuriating, because Chris has like no I don't think Chris has any sort of concept now for how bad he's making himself look, because desperately pleading with people, well, just like, yeah, go buy my mother some glasses, or, you know, just really like haranguing Bob just to get to sell stuff on eBay at this point, and just everything, all of this screams that Chris is about as self-entitled and as delusional as ever, except it's slightly worse, because Chris has fallen off the edge of the abyss and is now plummeting to God knows where. And if Chris could, like, have any foresight whatsoever to stop, no, forget foresight, any common sense whatsoever to just sit down and tell himself what exact, because from an outside perspective, this is not good, Chris. And I know a lot of people are probably going to be rephrasing that as well. This is just not good. It just doesn't sound good, Chris. It doesn't make you look good, and trust me, it gets worse before it gets even worse. There is no coming back, and I don't know how best. I don't really know at this point, again, how I can iterate that Chris is now certifiably insane. Some people may think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'll have you know, I've literally just watched part 65, and so I know exactly what I think. So let me know what you guys thought about this as well. I apologize for the few technical difficulties we did have, and I will see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.